We are grateful to be here, and we are grateful that you are here with us this morning. We'll have Mike's extended minute today. We'll have Peter's planning. We'll have Lisa share us the happenings here at Gentian and also coming up at Gentian. But as you guys know, we always go big, begin in gratitude. For me today, I'm just extremely grateful for the team that we have here, for great teachers, great mentors, and good books to drink from. And speaking of great mentors and teachers, I'm just extremely grateful for Chris Doty today, because he was spending some time with some of the top thinkers in the entire world when it comes to technology and the impacts that it has on each of us in our day-to-day and in our families. And he's about to share that with all of you soon and with all of us as well. So I'm extremely grateful for great mentors and teachers and continuing to learn every single day from them. How about yourself, Mike?
Thanks, Zach. Pretty easy for me this morning. I'm extremely grateful for my dad. It was his birthday earlier this month, and on March 15th, and even more exciting, he's retiring at the end of the month here, and it's just been such a journey for him, and I'm so excited for him. I'm excited for him to have a little bit more time to watch me on here every other week. So looking forward to that. So grateful for him and everything that he's taught me through all these years.
I love it. Thank you, Mike. How about yourself, Peter?
Exactly. I'm grateful to be participating today and have my own section. This is a first for me, I think, besides doing happenings and hopping on every once in a while. So grateful to be here to share information with all of you.
Peter's planning will be the best segment we've ever had. I know that for sure. So how about yourself, Lisa?
Hi, thank you, Zach. Well, as everyone knows, I was back in England for a couple of weeks, just got back this week. And so similar to Mike, I was able to celebrate my mom's 80th birthday. Had a party and we celebrated, and it was just great to see everybody and be back in my homeland. So that was always fun, and I'm very grateful to be able to still do that. So I thank Gentian and everyone here to cover for me while I'm gone. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. We miss you and glad to have you back, but glad you're able to be there with your mom too. For us here today, I'm going to share some different insights with historical perspective, especially over the last 5 years and all the things that occurred, and using the S&P 500 as an example. Mike's going to go through kind of markets where they're at year to date, and also kind of a high level on how we choose some of the fund managers that we work with. Peter's going to go through some deadline items, and also a few different planning items brought to us from him and Ken through Ed Slott. But really just starting out here today, we did an exercise about a week ago just to see kind of the different things that occurred, because something that we always hear is just, man, this time is different, or there's a lot more stuff going on right now than there was last year or the year before or 5 years ago even. And also, if you felt like this was a fairly substantial decline last year, you were right. It's actually the third largest calendar year correction in the S&P 500 since 1974. So we just did this exercise just to take a look at, just to add a little perspective, really since the end of 2018. But S&P 500 last week was around 3,944. I think it's a little more than that today. But just as an example, February of 2020, the peak right before we had the massive 34% correction coming into COVID, the S&P 500 was 3,337, or an 18% increase from then until now, even with that massive correction, or 6% per year over the last 3 years. September 2018, if you remember, we had a 19.8% correction right to end the year, September through December of that year, almost a 20% bear market type correction. The S&P 500 in September, before that correction occurred, was 2,913, or a 35% difference between then and where it's at today, or a 7% per year average since then. Since 2018, we had major supply chain disruption. We had the Rocket Man dilemma with Trump and Kim. We had a worldwide chip shortage. We had a global pandemic, an economic shutdown like we haven't seen before on a global scale since really the early 1900s and the Spanish flu. We had multiple virus strains that came out after COVID with Delta, Omicron. We had continued supply chain disruption where we had vehicles at certain car companies that lined Indy 500 tracks that were completed. All they needed were chips. We had a contested election with Trump and Biden. Russia invaded Ukraine and continues to be at war with Ukraine. We had SVB Bank failing last week, along with a few others. It had runaway inflation during that time, at one point even in double digits or close, and one of the fastest rate hikes in history, among other things that I'm sure I forgot. But when we look at that and mention those numbers of a 6% year average since February of 2020 before COVID, and 7.7% per year average since 2018, pretty unbelievable resilience in the markets, and to set the stage for things to come. With that and that little bit about market perspective and the things that happened over the last 5 years, I'll send it over to Mike's extended minute today.
Zach. And, given all of that, when you watch the news and you pay attention to these things on a daily basis, and obviously it's our job to do so, expectations from an uneducated standpoint or just from consuming headlines might be that the market's doing poorly. And we have had this correction, right? It's occurred. We know that it's happened. We're in it. We've been in it for a while now. But year to date, things are looking a little bit different. So year to date, the S&P 500 is up 4.47%. This is as of about 10 minutes ago. In the trailing 1 month, it's done just over 1% at 1.08%. The NASDAQ year to date up 13.47%. Trailing 1 month up 3.69%. Dow Jones Industrial Average, that's actually down 1.55%. Trailing 1 month, it's down 0.08%. Russell 2000, all the small cap stocks that are out there, year to date, it's up 0.33%. And in the trailing 1 month, it's down 6.85%. So these numbers have changed over the beginning of the year to now. January was pretty hot for a lot of different stocks. February, things cooled off. March, it seems that things are just starting to continue onward, and we'll see where things go from here. One of the most interesting things from domestic equities is concerned is the discrepancy between value and growth. You hear us talk about value and growth all the time. We split the domestic portion of our portfolios down directly down the middle, and in each strategy weighted based upon cap size. So, but between large cap growth and large cap value, some of the largest holdings that we typically look at, you can see that year to date, large cap growth up 10.91%. Large cap value down 1.73%. Reflect on what happened in 2022. Large cap value greatly outperformed large cap growth. And coming into this year, a lot of experts were still on the, standing there saying, large cap value is going to continue onward. This is what's to own. This is going to continue going forward as being the best asset class that you can own at this point. And it could be, right? But to this point, year to date, large cap growth is outperforming value almost 12%. And that's pretty exciting for those who rebalance, who take that annual discipline of rebalancing and staying disciplined with the portfolio itself. You're able to participate on the way up while value is doing well. It's holding things together. Holding water is a poor way to say it, but holding water at the end of the day. And then you rebalance annually. You have the opportunity to participate then by buying shares of growth that continue onward over the course of time. And these are the things we look at. This is where we find places to take income. This is where we own everything because of the fact that the portfolio, the strategy itself is made up of many different mutual funds, up to 13, even more for some people, depending on how we recommend. And it just goes to show that there's always going to be somewhere to take some money. There's always going to be the opportunity when it comes up. So please, when you do need money, talk to us about it. Let's have that conversation. Let's also talk about returns. You see the individual one portfolio return for yourself. There's individual components and levers and things that are moving in all sorts of different directions. And the great example that we continue to talk about is that there's an asset class that was up 42% at one point last year. So extremely interesting from that standpoint. And switching gears to keep the extended minute going, and Zach, if I get too far in the weeds, please grab the leash and pull me out. I'm going to talk about something that I think is just so incredibly interesting. And that's portfolio composition, and more specifically, what we look at, like, where did these mutual funds come from? And this is a lot of stuff that Chris and Ken and the rest of the guys, we've collaborated on. I've brought my own little spice to it, but truly Chris has been in this for so long, and he's taught me so much about what we're looking at and put a lot of trust in the whole team when we make decisions on what we're holding. So there's a few different, I mean, well, okay, there's a ton of different things that we look at when we invest in an individual mutual fund specifically, but I do want to narrow that down to just 6 different things that we see as being very important and things that are kind of like an initial screening, you know, put it on our radar. Let's think about this. So what we look at specifically in no particular order, year over year consistency in comparison to peers. So how are they doing in comparison to others who are invest in the same assets? How is their strategy holding up? And then how does it fit the sector that we want it to be in? You know, what we've found by seeing all these different studies is that the idea of being diversified and owning the asset class is how to get the majority of the return and participate in that upside. Now, there's a little bit of, you know, play inside of that where you can find a good active managed or a good active mutual fund, and that can help you get a little bit of outperformance. Those are kind of some things that we look at, that consistency and over time, how that is done in comparison to its peers. And then, of course, most importantly, well, I shouldn't say most importantly, because these all are, but the correlation between the other portfolio counterpart, you know, how does it blend with the other strategies in the portfolio itself? We want to make sure that we stay diversified and how the mutual funds actually manage in comparison to the other holdings, and then also what it's invested in. The risk reward profile, of course, you want to get the most reward for the amount of risk that you're taking. The 10-year manager tenure. Now, this is one we talk about a lot because we want to be able to see a track record before we make a decision. We want to make sure that the mutual fund has been acting in a way that we wanted to, or that they've said that they would, and they've stayed consistent to that. And by seeing a 10-year track record, we're able to look into the future and have a pretty good idea of hopefully that mutual fund will stay the course that it has. And then finally, you know, and this is kind of broken down in different categories, but we look at the company, we look at the manager, we look at the philosophy. You know, these are all individuals that we meet with on, as far as the portfolio manager is concerned, probably semi-annually. The individual fund representative as needed and as little as quarterly. You know, we want to make sure that we stay on top of this and we know what our investments are doing on the ongoing management and monitoring side of things. And then finally, company, we want to be diversified in strategy and company and sector at the end of the day. So all things that we pay attention to. Thanks for extra time, Zach.
Yeah, you're welcome. Mike, I was pulling on a invisible leash and it wasn't doing anything. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, I was speeding up a little bit, I felt like, to the end. So I felt you. Don't worry.
No, incredible job, Mike. I know you're extremely passionate about the research behind it and do a wonderful job. And Mike actually gives us a full report every Monday morning on all of the different funds we have, our starting lineup, and even a few others, just to make sure that they are doing. And so we're up to date on those. So weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, always going through as a team and have a backup ready to go in those different categories. Peter, I'll send it over to you for some Peter's planning.
Thanks, Zach. A couple of topics I want to touch on quickly today. First of which, I want to touch on IRA and qualified plan contributions because we're coming up on some deadlines and there have been some changes for 2023. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and pull up my screen so you can visually see the figures. So for 2022 IRA contributions, you do still have until Tuesday, April 18th. So that is tax day this year. So it's not the 15th, it is Tuesday, April 18th. For 2022, those limits were $6,000 if you're under the age of 50. If you are 50 and over, that's actually a typo. It's $7,000, not $6,500 for that $1,000 catch up. The changes for 2023 is under 50, that has been increased to $6,500, and another typo, the increase with the $1,000 catch up, if you're over age 50, you can actually contribute up to $7,500 into your IRA for 2023. The other changes this year are for qualified plan contributions. So your 401k, 403b, for example, if you're still working, under age 50, you can max out at $22,500 in 2023. If you're age 50 or over, that catch up actually takes you up to $30,000 for the year. So we've seen some nice increases there to help out with some savings for retirement. The other topic I want to quickly touch on is qualified charitable distributions, or QCDs. We've been talking about those a lot. It's a great way to donate money to a qualified organization, charity, church, what have you. So the way a QCD works is it's money directly sent from your IRA to the organization, and it's not taxed as ordinary income as if you took it. So the way these came about is they started as a way to utilize some of your RMD that you're required to take out, but maybe didn't necessarily need. The difference, though, is as the RMD age has increased from 70.5 to 72 to now 73, the age to do qualified charitable distributions did not increase. So as long as you have hit that 70.5 mark, you're allowed to do QCDs out of your IRA, so traditional IRA, at that point. You don't have to wait until RMD age. And we've also been getting a lot of questions about inherited IRA. That's becoming a much more heavily talked about topic. You as the account owner can do QCDs out of your inherited IRA as long as you have hit 70.5. So not the age of who you inherited the IRA from, it's your own age. But if you've hit 70.5, you can also do QCDs out of those inherited IRAs. So that's a planning topic we can talk about more in your meetings if you have questions. If you have any questions about what you've contributed in 2022 to make sure you've maxed out, if you want to, give us a call. We can help you out with that. But before I send it back to Zach, since Ken and Chris weren't able to join us today, and since Lindsay and I are expecting our first in June, I figured this is a great way for me to practice a dad joke, because it wouldn't be a Gentian biweekly update without one. I heard this recently. It's not as timely, but why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because it was outstanding in its field. So with that, I will send it back to Zach.
I would say that's a pretty darn good practice, Peter. Great job. I think we're gonna have to carve out Peter's planning for the rest of the time. That was extremely good, Peter. I appreciate it. But Chris always does a phenomenal job of sharing us different life perspective as well, and different things that we've learned. And he shared one with us in the past, and it's something that we received from Strategic Coach as well. But it's really called the hero. That's kind of self-serving sometimes, depending on the framework that it's in. Oh, I want to be a hero, or I could be a hero to them. Where if it's more from inspiration of who would I like to inspire, or who has inspired me, is a little bit different piece of framework to put it through. So just a little exercise. You can either think about it, or if you have a pen with you, just take a moment, Chris Doty minute on a webinar. Has anyone in your life ever inspired you? Take a minute, write it down, write their name down, and think of kind of why that inspired you during that time as well. Now, when you think about that, why did they inspire you? Was it something that they told you to do or criticized you for, that when you were told something or somebody criticized you, did that really truly inspire you to whatever that scenario occurred? More than likely, no. More than likely, it was something they allowed you to discover within yourself, or something that they possibly went to, something they showed you and how they handled it. And really the next portion of this is, who is someone in your life that you would like to inspire? Is it a spouse, a child, a grandchild, a neighbor, somebody in the church community, in the volunteer community? How do you think that we could potentially inspire that person, be a hero to them in a non-self-serving way? Is it through telling them what to do? Is it through potentially criticizing or nitpicking what they should do and try to push them towards that path? Or is it raising better questions and allowing them to discover within themselves what the scenario is? It came from How to Influence Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And the story he talked about in there was about a little boy that continued to wet the bed. He was always in his grandmother's bed, stayed in the grandmother's bed with her, wore the grandmother's gown, similar gown as the grandmother, and every morning she would criticize him. You wet the bed again, and was getting really frustrated. Finally, instead of criticizing him like they did for a ton of time, they asked him, what he would really like. He said he wanted his own bed. He wanted to wear pajamas like his dad did. Eventually they got him his own bed. He was super proud of it, never wet the bed again, right? Nothing else changed except he, inspired within himself, wanted his own bed, wanted the pajamas like his dad. And Chris shared a fishing analogy with us about 2 weeks ago, and it really, really stuck with me. Has anyone ever gone fishing before? Now, taking a step back a little bit, what's your favorite food? When we did this as a team, it was pizza, it was steak, it was sushi, it was tacos. Is that what you put on the end of the hook to catch a fish? Well, that's what we like to eat. Why wouldn't the fish like it either, right? Speaking of fish though, taking a step back like Peter, I have to add in something for Chris here. What's the best kind of music to listen to when you're fishing? Something catchy. Had to, apologize. But kind of stepping back in here, same for inspiring others or your loved ones. What really feeds you, what's your favorite thing to eat from may not be theirs. And it really hit home for me. As many of you know, I'm very passionate about fitness. I'm passionate about ultra running, to figure out, the different barriers that I have and breaking through those barriers. And I absolutely love it. I share it with as many people as I can. And sometimes I don't understand why people don't want that for themselves. Why don't they want to experience, the things that I've gone through, or breaking through the different barriers, or those? That's not what they want to eat. So when he shared that with us, it was extremely humbling to me, of just, what is somebody else interested in eating, like the fish example? How can I help them discover their own greatness? And maybe, hopefully that's helpful for children, grandchildren. I know through the different stories you share with us, they may be struggling through something, or failure to launch, or unsure kind of where they're at in life. And it's not necessarily feeding what fed you at one point, but allowing them to discover their own greatness. So something that Chris shared to us, but I hope you can be an inspiration to someone in your life. And the ending portion of it, the person that I immediately thought of was my gym teacher in high school. I had 2 shoulder surgeries. I played basketball, baseball, football. I was looking at different colleges, and all of a sudden, 9-month recovery. And instead of the gym teacher telling me, you have to get back into the gym, you have to do this, he said, come with me, I'll write you a pass for study hall every day to get you back into shape. So truly inspiring to me. That's what got my love for fitness. And that's who I immediately thought of, and who inspired me. And one of my biggest fears is that person inspired me, and I never told them how much I appreciate them, or how grateful I am for them. No gratitude expressed is no gratitude perceived. So if you're able to share that person that you wrote down or thought of with inspiration, just thank them. Thank them how much they inspired you and how much they meant to you. So with that, Lisa, I'll bring you in for what's happening here at Gentian.
Thank you, Zach. That was great. Really appreciate that. Okay, so what is going on here? Well, this next week, we have a birthday in the team on Wednesday, April 5th. It is Mike Mann's birthday. So everyone can send in messages and do a shout out to Mike. So happy birthday, Mike, for next week. And then next Friday already, it's going to be Good Friday and Easter weekend. So Sunday is Happy Easter, April the 9th. So that's all exciting and coming around very quick, which means it's almost spring. And as with the boys here, I would like to throw in a mum joke, should I say. So why are so many people tired on April the 1st? Because they just finished a 31-day march. I thought I'd keep it kind of springy and in there. So there you go. So on Wednesday, April the 12th, we have our next Gentian bi-weekly update. So thank you for attending. Hope you're going to be able to join us on that one. And also on April the 12th, we have our April birthday club. So I believe that has gone out on our bulletins. So please sign up for that if it's your birthday. And again, we always tell people if they miss March or they can't come in May, please, come in April, just sign up for that. So as Peter said, April the 18th is tax day. And then on the 26th, we have our next bi-weekly update. And then April the 30th is a very own Zach's birthday. And then coming into May, at the beginning of May, on May the 3rd, we have our Spring Forum, and May the 4th. The Spring Forum is in Appleton on May the 3rd, and May the 4th is the Milwaukee area forum. So that is held at our normal venue at Blue Mountain Country Club. So we look forward to anybody who signs up. So really appreciate that, and hopefully everyone has a great spring and Easter. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for the happenings coming up here at Genty and also the birthday wishes. As Mike and I already know, April birthdays are the best birthdays, and no, not to share ages, but this one is a golden birthday at the end of April as well. So, but really, we're Gentian Retirement. We help you plan for retirement with all the Peter's planning and Mike's minute that we talked about, all the different intricacies with retirement, with Social Security, pensions, others, but then also the live it side. How can we help you live a more meaningful, joyful life for you and your family and what you really want? And then at some point, we have to give it to somewhere, whether that's to Uncle Sam, to the travel agency, to our kids or grandchildren, and really help you through that transition as well. And as evidenced by, we're constantly researching different things behind the scenes of what are people going through now. We're listening in all of these meetings, and some of those top of mind right now are when it comes to transitioning out of our primary residence right now to potentially a different type of retirement home as well. It could be through a retirement community, it could be downsizing through a condo. So we're reaching out to centers of influence and others who specialize in that area, things to consider. We're looking at different potentially programs we can run with that. So we are constantly working behind the scenes of different life stages that you guys are going through to prepare you for those ahead of time, or even if you're younger and going through this as well, to help prepare you to help your parents or grandparents with this too. So thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Bye everyone. Thank you.